All right, I've been trying to record this one live, just easier that way, but Facebook and my phone have been acting up all of a sudden, so we'll just do it this way. What I have here is an old HX55, just came off M11 Cummins. It's something I had laying around here. So I got the turbine side up, and this is something most people neglect to talk about. They always say, well, I've got an S366, or I've got a 62, or an 8087. Oh, never mind, sorry. And both sides are, I don't want to say more important than one another. I'd almost put them equally important, if not leaning more toward the turbine side. So, sizing on this, if you have an S300, those guys go off the X-deucer of the turbine, which is the outside. And if you're an S400 guy, you go off the inducer, which is the big side. Why they did it like that, I think it's just for confusion, or not confusion, to avoid confusion. So basically to measure your turbine, you just get you a pair of calipers, that's the same one I was using earlier, and drop them down on there as best you can across from each other. With odd count blades, it's kind of difficult. But as you can see, this one is right at 77 millimeters on the X-deucer. So then we'll open these up and go for the inducer. And the inducer is a little bit tougher just because of the blade height. But there you go. Right around 86 millimeters. So that's your turbine sizing. If you have an S300, you got the 68, the 65, the 71, the 74, which is all going to be on this X-deucer. If you got an S400, you have the 83, the 87, the 92, and the 96. Plus there's a new 100 millimeter one out now. So if you're unsure, you can just measure it. All right, so we'll flip over here to the compressor side. All right, so the compressor side is the other way. So this is the inducer, this is where the air comes in at, just to kind of help you remember that. And then here's the X-deucer, the big side. So I don't think I'm gonna be able to measure the X-deucer with these calipers, but I'm gonna try. The inducer should be 65 millimeters. As you can tell, this wheel's a little ate up, but. Yeah, right around there, if it wasn't so ate up. It's just an old turbo. And maybe a little closer to 64. And then the X-deucer, of course, is going to be the big guy out here. I want to say it's 100 or 90 or something like that. Oops, should be like 90. Yeah, okay. So roughly, you want to try and go straight across from each other. Kind of difficult to do one hand. I still haven't got a tripod or anything yet. But so there's your compressor side, there's your exhaust side. So whenever you're selling a turbo, you don't know what it is, you don't have the measurements, try and get these measurements to help everyone else out. If you're recommending turbos, you need to know both sides. You can't just say, okay, well, you need a 66. Well, what exhaust side? Because if you say, well, you need a 6674 and they only want 500 horse, that's not going to work. If you tell them a 6665 and they want 600 horse, well, that's not going to work either. You want to match those to the power goal, both of them. You can't just take into consideration one or the other. The other thing is, I don't have the compressor cover. It's at my house as a doorstop. If that tells you anything about the turbo. But I do have the exhaust housing, which is one of the hull set monsters for this particular piece. You'll want to size the turbine housing to what you're doing also. This particular housing is a 22 centimeter, which you could see it in there once upon a time, but it's old. So then your flange size, which this is a goofy looking flange. I haven't actually measured it. And then your outlet size, which is a big Marmon flange. A lot of you guys will be using an HX40 downpipe, which is a 4-inch half Marmon. If you're using S400, whatever, you can have a 4 5/8 flat flange, and you can have the 5-inch full Marmon flange. Or you could also have it cut down to the HX40 on some of them. But this is another thing. You got to take into consideration all the parts of the turbo for recommended for a horsepower goal. You cannot just go off the compressor inducer because there's too many variables. You know, you could have a 62, 68, 62, 71, whatever. You know, you can't, I see it all the time. People just recommend the compressor inducer, and it doesn't work like that. There's too many options, really. So, I mean, turbo sizing isn't difficult, at least just getting the sizes of what you have. But the hard part is just matching the turbo to your goal. And I do a lot of it on there. There's lots of other people that do it on there. Once you get the hang of it and you've been around a while, or you know, you're a quick learner, whatever, you know, you can get the sizing down pat. But never just go off compressor inducer, sorry. Always take into account turbine wheel, turbine housing. Wish I had a compressor cover, but I mean, there's not a ton to show you on there. But that's pretty much it. So this is the old HX55, like I was saying.